we'll start with Mr. Van Popta. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being with us here today and sharing your knowledge for the benefit of this committee and for the Canadian people. Dr. Perry, I'll start with you. In 2018, you told the Foreign Affairs Committee at a hearing that Canada's official position is that the Canadian Arctic is a zone for peace and cooperation. But you added that to increase our chances of us realizing that desirable outcome, we would have to bolster our defenses to better deter Russia. Now, that was 3 or 4 years ago. What would you say today about Canada's defense capability in the face of Russia's naval and air presence in the north?
Thanks for the question. I'd say that in the intervening time, we haven't done enough to actually close the gap that I was talking about back then. We have programs underway. You mentioned a couple of them. We just saw a week ago an announcement about acquiring future fighter aircraft. Those all still remain works in progress, and not enough tangible action has been taken to close that gap. So most of that, the delta between what we can do and what we should be able to do remains in place today, unfortunately.
Good, thank you. Now, I was looking at the mandate letter for the Minister of Defense, Minister Anand, and it says, among many other things, you will maintain a strong contribution to NATO and work with the USA to modernize NORAD. Now, would you characterize our contribution to NATO as strong?
I think our operational contribution to NATO is strong. I think our commitment of personnel and good personnel to what the alliance does has been strong. But I do think that we have fallen well short of our alliance commitments towards burden sharing expressed as a share of our economy that we're devoting to military spending. We have for years been well short of the target of 2% of GDP overall going to the military. And I think that now more than ever, our allies as well as adversaries are taking note of those shortfalls.
Good, thank you. So if we were to increase our military spending to 2% as recommended, as we have agreed to with our NATO allies, what would that look like for the North? Let's say upgrading the North warning system, which I understand is still 1980s technology.
If we were to move to that threshold of spending, it would allow us to move forward meaningfully with continental defense modernization, which has a number of Arctic elements as part of that, and would allow us to bolster the use and utility of the infrastructure we have up there, the types of assets that we can deploy into our own Arctic, and provide us with a quite significant increase in our ability to defend Canada as part of North America.
What specifically should we be looking for in that vein in the upcoming federal budget when it comes to military spending?
I'd be looking for detail on how the government plans to translate the high-level statement of intent signed in a letter last August with the Secretary of Defense for the United States into specific lines of action to move forward on continental defense, along with the funding plan to make that happen.
Good, thank you. Now, you also stated that there's money that has been allocated but not used, not spent. Now, with the recent announcement about Canada purchasing F-35 fighter jets, is that a step in the right direction? Perhaps you could comment on that.
I think it's absolutely a step in the right direction. I think over successive years, we've had money set aside to buy new fighter aircraft, but because of delays in that project, that money continues to have gone unneeded in the immediate term because we haven't gotten to the point where we can sign a contract. The announcement last week of a new fighter fleet is a much overdue, but much necessary commitment to improve the defense of the country.
Good, thank you. I've heard it said in conversations, and I've read it as well, that there are people in our policy-making community that says, well, in order for the United States to defend itself, it must defend Canada as well. Is that true in the sense that there are those conversations going on? And is it true in the sense that that U.S. must defend itself?
That's a risk, but it's one that is actually a risk to Canada if the United States felt that it was in that particular position. I think it's of much benefit to us, not just for our own security, but our position with our closest ally on the continent we share, to be viewed as a partner in national defense and not as a liability.